Alright, so a day in the life of a mail carrier. The simple version is we come in, clock in, case up our mail, sort our packages, load our vehicle, head out to the route, deliver all the mail, come back, break the mail down, and clock out. But baby, when I tell you it's a whole lot of shenanigans in between all of that, trust me, I know.
I'm not worried about nothing, I'm just living my life. I'm not worried about nothing, taking it one day at a time. I'm not worried about nothing, no, 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 no. I'm free as a bird and up I go.
Talk about my pet peeves. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I delivered a piece of mail and maybe the name on the mail, they don't live there anymore. Somebody returns it and they'll write wrong address. No, ma'am, sir. It's not the wrong address. It's a bad name. That makes it look like I delivered it to the wrong house. I delivered it to the correct house. They just don't live there. Also, when people would write unnecessary stories on the mail, for instance, this one right here. This person literally took the time to write move. I believe he passed away, dead, as told to me by my neighbor, Miss Millie. Why is that necessary? Why? Just write doesn't live here, person unknown. This is one of many dramatic and unnecessary notes I've seen. What I did appreciate is when people would take a sticky note, write their little story on it so it could be removed. So say this guy wasn't dead. Maybe he did actually just move. So when we forwarded that, he would see that crazy note. So that was a pet peeve of mine, when people would just like write weird stuff on the mail. One of my biggest pet peeves was in the winter, because I delivered in the great state of Michigan. I hated when people felt like it wasn't necessary for them to shovel their snow, but then still felt like they should get mail. My baby, I deliver up to 500 addresses a day. If everyone on my route, even if half the people on my route, even if 10% of the people on my route didn't shovel their snow, that's 50 people. I'm not going to potentially break my neck to deliver this junk mail to you, or to give you this AT&T bill, or to deliver you this child support order, or this warrant, because I would be paying attention to what people would be getting in the mail. No, that makes absolutely no sense. But like, people really feel entitled to mail delivery. If you have dog waste in your yard, we don't have to walk through that. If you don't cut your grass, I'm not walking through that. If you feel like you don't need to rake your leaves, you're not getting mail. People don't seem to realize that anything that we deemed a hazard as a carrier, we can just cut your mail for it. I know one time somebody got mad at me because I didn't deliver to his house because his dog was on the front porch. Oh, he can't get out. People don't realize, as mail carriers, we see a whole bunch of stuff, and we've dealt with a lot of stuff, and what you feel like is impossible, we know it's possible. I've literally been on someone's porch delivering their mail, and the dog burst through the screen door. And so then I'm looking at the dog looking at me, I'm looking back at the dog, and he looking shocked that he flew through the door. So I tried to tell them, you think your dog can't get out, but your dog is capable of getting out of that door. I had a lady, she would see me coming up the street this way. By the time I got to her house, she would put her dog up. If her dog was out, she would come get the mail. So I appreciated those customers that understood the risk, because people felt like, oh, it's just my house, but it's like I have 499 more houses to go. I'm not about to risk myself at just your house. So basically, if you're out there listening to this, make it convenient for your mail carrier. Please, 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 I beg of you. Not really, I don't beg nobody for nothing. And speaking of dogs, let me show you the only thing that us as mail carriers had to combat dogs. Yes, a can of Back Off dog repellent, personal protection against dog attacks. This is all we had to deal with your pit bull with like the gazillion teeth in his mouth. We had to whip this out and spray. I used to actually carry one on each side. Like, I have sprayed, let's just say, my fair share of dogs. Now I wouldn't, I obviously wouldn't, seek out a dog to spray, but if your dog came by me, I would spray it. I was actually at a funeral one time, and this guy was like looking at me, and I recognized him. I knew he was from my route, and I knew I had sprayed his German Shepherd. But he was just looking at me, and finally he was like, "You look familiar." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm your mail carrier." And he was like, "You sprayed my dog." And snatched me up. But he had 2 big old German Shepherds outside, and they were sitting next to him, just minding, listening to what he was saying. And one of them saw me and just flew at me. So he was flying at me, and I was like, and he, but the only thing that I didn't do that I wanted to do prior to leaving the post office, I never was able to justify spraying a human. I know that probably sounds crazy, but like I had a lot of crazy interactions with people. And when I tell you, every time I had a crazy interaction, for whatever reason, my dog spray was never on me. Well, you know, people would be talking crazy and it's like, okay, they're getting aggressive. I can see this is about to be an issue. I would kind of, you know, try to nonchalantly pat, and I'll be darned. No dog spray. Which, for all I know, could have been a blessing in disguise. And when I tell you crazy people, one time this lady was driving up the street. I was about to cross the street, and she kind of like waved me to keep going, you know. So I was like, oh, you know, thank you. And then she was like, come here. And I was just looking at her, and she just didn't look right to me. The vibes were off. And I was like, you know, what do you need? And she was like, come here. I was like, if you have anything to say to me, you can say it from your vehicle. Beep, blah, blah, blah. Like, she went completely off of me. She told me she was gonna kill me, and she even mentioned my spray. She was like, what you gonna do? All you got is that mace. And I remember I kind of patted my side like, well, I'll be darned, I don't. And this was a big woman. But I invited her to get out the car, because I told her I was going to drag her up and down the street. Now, if she would have got out that car, I would have stood my ground, because that's just how I'm built. But she was telling me how she was going to kill me, all this crazy stuff. And I ain't had no dog spray, because that would have been justifiable if she would have came up on me to spray her. Let me tell you my favorite story about working at the post office. So I was delivering to, it's like a recycle place. And so I delivered to the office, but the office was right across from where all these recycle bins were, and the ground was unpaved. So in the summertime, you could just see it as people were driving. It was just smoky and dusty. And I'm not gonna lie, I was in one of those little box vehicles, and I would kind of be whipping a little bit. So I, swerved into the parking lot, and it was probably a lot of dust billowing behind me or whatever. So as I was coming back, this guy kind of flagged me down. So I stopped and I rolled my window down for him. I didn't even say, may I help you, or how's it going? He was just like, you're driving through here spewing all this dust and dirt and blah blah blah. Like, he just started fussing at me. And I was just looking at him, and he was just talking and calling himself going off on me. And when he closed his mouth, I figured he was done talking. And then I just jammed on the gas. And when I tell you, it was just dirt, the back tire just made all this dirt just go flying. And I could see him in the mirror just like looking at me like super angrily. I was telling somebody later, I was like, oh my goodness, I wish you could have just seen what I did. Like, you do something and you wish you had somebody to enjoy the moment with you. That's what happened. Like, I'm like, dude, somebody needed to see this. Anyways, I never heard anything. And about 3 days later, one of the clerks came around, and he was like, did you interact with some guy at Emmons? Apparently he came to the post office came through like a side door. The clerk and another manager, they saw him and, you know, they stopped him, and he was flaming mad because I guess he had been trying to call the post office and he couldn't get through to anybody. So then he proceeded to tell them this story about, you know, postal worker who was flying and making dust go everywhere. And they asked him like, well, what did the carrier look like? And he was like, she was black. So I guess I made him so upset that because of little old me, he drove all the way down to the post office, broke in to tattle on me. The supervisor was like, well, what did she say to you? And the guy was like, nothing. And he was like, no, okay, all right. When I tell you, that made the story even funnier, because it's like, dude, that bothered you so much that you went to tattle on me and you thought something was gonna happen. And the thing about it, had the clerk not been there, I would have never known that, like, he came down there and did all that. Anyway, I say all that to say, don't waste your time trying to get a mail carrier fired. Actually, if you waste your time going out to the post office, you might screw you and a lot of other people in your route from getting mail. Let me explain. So I was delivering this route one time, and when I'm at apartment complexes, like, I put the mail in a box. Like, I'm not about to hand mail out to you. I don't care if your key is missing. You know, that's kind of not my issue. A lady came over to me and she was like, I need the mail for, and she gave me the address, and I was like, you have to get it out the box. And I knew she didn't have a key. And she was like, well, I don't have a key. And I was like, well, if you have your ID and it matches the name on the mail and the address on the mail, you know, I'll give you your mail, which I knew she didn't have. She was like, well, I need all the mail. I was like, well, I can't give you mail that doesn't have your name on it. And then she just went off on me. She was like, well, you're not doing your job. I'm gonna go talk to this person. I'm gonna talk to the postmaster. And she was name dropping, and she was just ranting and raving. And she was just going on, I'm gonna get you for all this stuff. She took a breath, and I was like, you gonna fight me? She was like, fight you? No. And I was like, walk away then. That lady turned and walked away. Apparently though, she called down to the post office, and I don't know what she said, what was discussed, but the next day my supervisor came over to me and was like, don't deliver any, say the name of the apartment complex was Pleasantville. Don't deliver any mail to Pleasantville. I was like, well, I have some packages. Don't deliver any mail or packages to Pleasantville. And I was like, okay. And my supervisor didn't tell me, but I guess she told somebody else, yeah, I don't want to have to deal with Camilla getting into it with anyone. Whatever. Y'all better think it through before y'all call down there. Okay, briefly, I want to touch on the thing about throwing packages. People have all these little Ring cameras, and they're quick to send video footage in of people throwing packages. Like, sometimes I have thrown packages, and I'd be like, whew, that was wow, you ain't had to do all that. But if your snow is not shoveled, like, it's been people, I skipped their mail because their snow wasn't shoveled, and then I had a big package for them. So you gonna get that package however you get it. I could take it back to the office and say no access, like I can't reach your door. One time I had a package, it was like a little Amazon package, and little flimsy packages. The snow was literally like this deep. There was no tracks in the snow. So I tried to throw it, and the wind hit it as soon as I tossed and just took it flying. So I still had to go through the snow. Hindsight is 2020. Had I known that was gonna happen, I would have just brought their package back. One time, see, people need to mind their business. These people had ordered like toilet paper, and it was a huge box. It was super light though, because all it was toilet paper. And it was a guy working on a roof next door. I threw it over and it landed on the porch. This guy from the roof gonna say, I hope what's in there ain't broke. Oh, I could have got smart, but I was like, it was toilet paper. Here he go banging on the roof. Oh, people used to get on my nerves. But I will say, like, if I threw a package, I had a legit reason to be throwing that package, for the most part. Let's talk about the weather. People are always like, oh, that snow is probably horrible. I would hate to deliver in the snow. And to be completely honest with you, I would much rather deliver in snow than rain. Once you're wet, you are wet. You have to have all the necessary rain gear. When I tell you, I had all the gear. But one day, I didn't know it was gonna rain that day, and I got soaked. I pulled over, took all my clothes off in my vehicle, put the heat on high to dry off all my clothes. Like, I could not stand delivering in the rain. Snow, it could be snowing, you could dust the snow off of you, and as long as you were dressed properly, you were good. It wasn't fun trudging through snow for, 6.5, 7, 8 hours, but I wasn't cold. On a serious note, I want to tell you all about this guy. I hated seeing him. He's like, would kind of stalk me. He was an older guy. I'm gonna say he was like 70 or something. But one day he pulled up on me and he was like walking around here looking like you 12. I like that. That made... So, sir, you're a pedophile? Why would you say that to somebody? Prior to that, I would do this anyways, but if someone was sketchy or made me feel uncomfortable, you didn't get mail from me. I had a list of people. I pulled up to a house one time. This guy looked so crazy. I skipped the entire block. I pulled up and he was standing on his porch, just looking wild, shirtless. He looked crazy. I looked at him, thought about it, looked back at him. He was looking at me. Put the car back in drive and took off. The whole block didn't get mail. I was not gonna put myself at risk to deliver y'all no magazines and bills. It wasn't gonna happen. And since I don't work there anymore, let me tell you about some of the sketchier things I've done. Maybe my second or third week working there, I had just finished up training, so I was going out on my own, and I had parked in this empty parking lot. In an empty parking lot, and they've taken the different light fixtures out there, like random concrete blocks and stuff. Well, when I was pulling out, I thought I had cleared everything. Next thing I know, the front tires were just in the air. I had rolled up on one of the concrete blocks, and I was like, and so I put the car in reverse and just like jammed on the gas, and it pushed me off of it. And when I say I towed that vehicle up, I knew it was messed up. I'm not a mechanic, but I knew that vehicle was tore up. Fumes were coming back inside the vehicle, was smelling strange. I felt like I had a headache from it. So I drove it back to the office, and I was like, hey, I kind of ran into something underneath my vehicle. And my supervisor was just like, oh, I don't know where a mechanic is, just go back out there with that. And like 2 days later, they were trying to find out who was driving the vehicle to cause, apparently it was like $5,000 worth of damage. But I figured, I told my supervisor, she knew I did it, but you sent me back out in the vehicle, so she wasn't gonna say nothing. But yeah, so I think in like my second week of working there, I caused like thousands of dollars of damage to a vehicle. And one time, I don't know how it happened, but I kind of had bumped into a light pole. I just felt myself stop. Got out and I had hit a light pole. Nothing too serious, but things have happened. But overall, for the most part, people are really good to the carriers, leaving little snacks, waters, just generally looking out for you. Some people, they're like, I don't shovel my snow, but I had to make sure you had a clear walk, So overall, like, people treated you very well, and I can't complain about it. There was some customers that I love to see. It was this one lady, I changed the route around and I would deliver her house last, because when I got there, like, I already know we were gonna talk for at least 20 to 30 minutes at minimum. She was like one of my favorite customers. And then I talk about all the people that, like, made it miserable. But then I will say, like, I had this guy, it was actually shocking to me. It was like a couple weeks before I resigned, but I guess he had been having some issues with his mail. And as I mentioned before, I only deliver once a week. So he saw me and he was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And he was fussing. I was like, who are you talking to? And oh, that's just how my voice sound. And I was like, that's not how it needs to sound when you talk to me, And I just walked away. And I was delivering the next week on that same route, but it wasn't on his street. But I guess he must have saw me, so he came out the house and went, excuse me. He was like, that was me last week. I apologize about that. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, you saw I was ready for action. He was like, yeah. He was like, but I've been having issues and I just saw a mail carrier, so I was just expressing myself. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, I appreciate that. And that actually took me aback, because usually like people would just go off on you, and either they would avoid you or just be super nice to you anytime after that once you like gave him flack back. But he actually took the time and like apologized for like his actions. And then like that meant a lot to me. Like stuff like that, it may seem like lame, but it was just like, oh, that was dope of him. He didn't have to do that. He absolutely didn't have to do that, but he did. But yeah, I don't know. I walked all day, interacted with people, slung mail, and couldn't wait to clock out. Yeah, so anytime you see a mail carrier, man, respect them. People don't realize the shenanigans that carriers have to go through. You have an attitude with your carrier that day, like you might have been the 30th person that day that they had to deal with their attitude. Like, you know, just be kind. Be kind. I would try to keep that same energy with my customers. Like I never would start anything with people. I mean, if you started with me, I didn't have a problem finishing it, but just a smile. Like I've had people like, man, I just love to see you always smiling. And I would try, like, even if, you know, if I had an issue with this customer on this street and I came to your street, I'm not gonna bring that over to you. So give us that same respect. You have an issue with this person, don't take it out on the mail carrier. Like, we're just doing our jobs. So hopefully this vlog was all encompassing. I tried to remember everything and kind of touch on everything. I don't have all the time in the world. I could sit down and talk to you about mail carrier stories like all day. Like I could have you tickled pink. But obviously here we don't have the time for that. But like I said, hopefully you guys were entertained. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and tell a friend, or two, or three, or four, or five. Alright, so Pete, if you look at my head right now, it looks like a really weird shape. You can see it. And there's a reason for that. By the way, I'm very happy that it's still acceptable for us to wear winter hats, because if it wasn't, I would have a problem right now. But I washed my hair. Well, I can't stand washing my hair. And I washed my hair last night. And I put conditioner on it, and then I always use like a plastic Myers bag or something to, you know, hold in the moisture or whatever. And I fell asleep in it, and I got up this morning, and before I went to work, I did not have time to rinse it out. So